So, in a race that's still considered close, how did each leader do? Was it enough to secure a path to victory? To talk about this, we're happy to have on the program Rick Bell, columnist with the Calgary Sun. Rick, nice seeing you. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, I'm thrilled. I'm on CPAC. I'm in the big leagues now, so, you know.
That is true.
I am serious. No sarcasm intended. This is for real.
Well, I've
been watching you guys forever.
Well, I'm glad you're on. Listen, I was watching the debate last night. It seemed like Danielle Smith was stronger in the first half. Rachel Notley able to get her points in stronger in the second half. When you watched it, was there a clear winner for you?
Well, Smith, I think, won by not losing. If everybody was being honest in Alberta, most people tuned in not for some profound policy discussion, but Danielle Smith. They were waiting to see if she stepped in it, if she slipped on the banana peel, if she did what I call a spacewalk, where she would start and come into some convoluted explanation in some other solar system. If she did a bozo eruption, which is basically saying something that could be clipped in a short clip and played again and again and again till election day, because those things have happened in the past, both with her and with her candidates. That didn't happen. She came across normal. She came across, direct, answered the questions, and except for one question about trust. And therefore, I think she won. Also because the polls almost universally indicate that in Calgary, where it is the battleground, Rachel Notley has to win big. And in most of the polls, it shows that she's not winning big in Calgary, at least not yet. Mm-hmm. So I think she had to really, really shine, and I don't think that happened. So the bar was much lower for Danielle Smith.
Okay, but if the bar was higher for Rachel Notley, then she did push back, bringing up things like Danielle Smith's past comments about getting Albertans to pay more for their own health care, brings up the specter of privatized health care, the ethics commissioner report that came out Thursday. If this vote comes down to leadership and, as you said, trust, did Notley do enough to at least sow doubt in Smith's capacity as a leader you could turn to?
Well, this is going to be her strategy. She's going to spend the next week hammering away at the trust issue, that you cannot trust Danielle Smith. The reality is that Danielle Smith and the UCP have already suffered a lot of erosion in support. Remember 4 years ago, the UCP, one Conservative Party instead of two, won by 22 points, a landslide. That is not going to happen, almost certainly not going to happen on May 29th. So there already has been a lot of erosion in UCP support. But again, it is a steep climb for Rachel Notley because of the way the electoral map is. She's going to probably sweep Edmonton, and she has to win a solid majority of the seats in Calgary. At present, she has 3 out of 26. She probably has to win 16 or more out of 26. So it's a pretty steep climb. So we'll see if hammering away at trust is the big issue. Most polls show that Danielle Smith is more seen as the better choice for the economy, for public safety, for jobs, that sort of thing. Notley more popular for healthcare and, other issues like trust. Mm-hmm, so we'll see where that goes. I think a lot of the people that don't trust Danielle Smith have already left. Okay. But we'll see if there are more to come. There's still a group of Conservatives who have not made up their mind. And they have to decide, how badly do I feel about Danielle Smith compared to hanging on to a brand they have voted for in one form or another their whole life.
Yeah, well, that's interesting because as you say, a lot of this boils down to Conservatives who are not yet convinced about Danielle Smith in the greater Calgary area. But how much of this goes down to ground game, though? Because it's one thing to go to a pollster and say, this is the party, this is the person I support, but it's another thing to actually be motivated and cast a ballot for someone who you are lukewarm about.
Exactly. The ground game is going to be very, very important. And turnout for younger voters. Younger voters are decisively, according to the polls, in the NDP camp. So if those younger voters, 35 and under, really come out, really are serious, really rally for Notley, that's going to give, some, strong support, strong backing, strong numbers for the NDP. Older voters tend to favor the UCP, and older voters, as you know, in Alberta and elsewhere, have tended historically to have higher turnouts. We'll see if that happens this time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people in the rest of Canada are a bit puzzled how Danielle Smith can even be in the running, or even, according to most polls, slightly leading in Calgary, when so much has happened during the campaign and in the past.
Yeah.
Comments she's made and other people have made, other of her candidates.
So how do you explain that then, Rick? If that's the question people have outside of the province, how do you explain that?
Two things. One, the conservative brand, not conservative philosophy, not conservative ideology, but the conservative brand is very strong in a lot of Alberta, including many areas within Calgary. So there's a strong conservative brand strength. The second thing is, you can entertain the following two thoughts in your mind at the same time. You can say, I don't like what this wonky doodle candidate said in such and such a riding, or I don't like what Danielle said 2 years ago about this, or 18 months ago about not wearing a poppy. That could make me cringe, but people could still hold their nose and vote for the UCP because they think the UCP will be better for them personally. So the two things are not necessarily contradictory.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So we'll see where that goes. For instance, this ethics report where she was found guilty of, conflict of interest by going to her justice minister on behalf of a person facing criminal charges regarding the Coutts border blockade. You can say, Danielle Smith, that was really, really stupid. Really stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And still somehow rationalize in your mind, some voters could rationalize and say, but I still want to vote UCP because they're giving me a tax cut. Or I want to vote UCP because they're doing this, that, and the next thing. They're going to stand up to Ottawa, or I just don't like the NDP or whatever. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it doesn't necessarily follow that because you don't like some of the things that, that she has done or candidates have done, you're necessarily not going to vote for the UCP.
Okay.
And again, remember, we've got a lot of time coming. So the same people who are watching that debate saying there might be a bozo eruption are really, really hoping there will be one sometime between now and May 29.
Well, we are watching, Rick. We're on our way to Calgary next week to start speaking to people, including you. So we'll be knocking on your door. Rick, I got to go, but thank you so much for that.
Anytime. Anytime.
Take care. Rick Bell.